Good morning, everybody. Apologies for the late start this morning. A few things I needed to sort out for a client just before 11 o'clock. That was certainly far more important this morning than me getting on with this video for you guys. Although I'm here now, and there we go. I said on all the posts I've shared this week that I was going to talk about using Akeeba Backup within your Joomla platform. I know a lot of people have mentioned that they don't have backups in place beyond what their server provides or their hosting company provides, which is fine. It obviously does its job, but you're less in control then of when they happen, what happens, where do they go, what can you do with them, how easy are they to get back. Sometimes they're not as straightforward to do as Akeeba lets you do. I've got one viewer. Please drop me a hashtag live in the comments if you're watching. If you have any questions at all while I'm talking, put them in the comments and I'll come back to them as soon as I can. If I don't get the time this morning, I'll reply later on today or tomorrow and let you know what's going on. So for those of you that don't know, Akeeba Backup is one of the most popular backup solutions for Joomla. For the sake of it, it also has a WordPress option. You can download it for both of those two. And I've used it on one WordPress site. And it's as good to use in WordPress as it is within Joomla. And I've used it free version and now the pro version for probably, I wouldn't even like to guess, I would imagine 15 years plus in terms of it. And I've just found it an absolutely invaluable tool now for what I do. So you can grab a free version. You don't have to pay for it. You're like, there's a free version in there to grab, download, use, whatever. I know for those of you that have come to me from the Joom Shaper forums, the Helix and Page Builder groups on Facebook, I have a feeling, although I've not used one for a while, I think their quick start packages use Akeeba, and I have a feeling they also come with Akeeba Backup free version installed by default within there as well. So for those of you who are using the quick start packages for any of their templates and stuff, you've already got this. It's there. The free version is ready for you to use. So if I take a look at it in my test site, I will log in the back end and take a look through. So as with anything in Joomla, it goes on as an extension, the component. And at the top of the list, components, Akeeba Backup is there by default. Now this is the pro version. So there are a couple of things this will do, well, more than a couple of things this will do that the free version won't. Absolutely by default, it will run through when you first install it a little bit of a configuration check. It will do its own checks on server performance and how well the backups run. It will let you then save those, and you're literally at that point you can use it. So on this one, for example, if I literally just go to the dashboard, components, Akeeba Backup, and click the default backup profile, away it goes. It will run through the backup process on that site. It backs up everything. It backs up the files, the database. In the pro version, you can also set it up to backup out of directory files, certain websites, because you can also use this for standalone PHP applications and databases as well, in a different route, but it's there. You can back up files outside of the public HTML, which is useful for certain platforms like OpenCart 3 and on, for example, where it uses an external non-public HTML folder for storing the cache and other bits and bobs for security reasons. So there we go. That's done. That is quite a small site, so the backup was really quick to run through. But once you've done that one, you can either click Manage Backups here, or in the control panel, click on the Manage Backups button, and you can see now all of the backups it's taken, and it will hold them all. I've got mine set by default, and I have a feeling the backup default within Akeeba is to keep 3 copies of 3 backup files at any one time. So if I run another backup now, it will delete this older one and add me a new one at the top. So these are all status green, means they've completed. I can if I want. So if I was to want to move this website somewhere else, say I was going to move it to a live hosting plan or to another server or whatever else, I can literally click that button to download it, and away it goes, and I can ignore those, download it, and it will give me a single file which contains my entire Joomla install, all the extensions, database files, everything else that's in there. So the other nice option you've got on this is also you can restore. So very regularly, now if I'm doing a live site build, I've got something going on, or I'm making changes to a client site or testing or whatever, I will nearly always take a backup before I do anything, in case for whatever reason something goes wrong and I need to restore quickly. So if I'd done that now, for example, say I'd realised something was wrong, I'd installed an extension that broke something, as long as I can still get access to the admin side of Joomla, I can come straight into components and Akeeba Backup, manage backups, and I can literally now tick that box, and at the top of the page I can hit restore. Now this will literally overwrite everything on my setup. I'll run through it for the sake of it here, and I'm going to literally do start restoration, and it's going to do an extraction of all those files and let me run the restoration script, which I'll walk through at the same time now. Now, because this is restoring to the same site it's already on, everything will already be filled in. So when I go next, it's got my database, server name, password are already completed, and it will automatically drop any existing tables for this site, which is usually a good idea because it's going to restore them back to what they were before. It's not going to leave anything hidden. So I always leave that as drop. Next. OK. And it will restore the database first, which is usually very, very quick. Next step. I can, if I want now, I can change passwords. I can change what the htaccess file is going to do. I can put my password in. If I want to change it, for example, I can, unless you've got RS Firewall enabled, which is lock them. Next, and literally remove the installation directory, visit your site front end. My site's restored back to, ignore these patterns, I've been testing something for somebody, back to my working site again. And that's in there. So again, there's my login page back. I can go back in, back to normal, whatever else is in there. So within the Joomla admin section, that is how quick it is to restore a backup. So there's a lot of posts I see from people where they've done something, their site's gone down, they don't know what they've done, they can get admin often, but they can't get the front end. That is a really, really quick way to get things back. Literally, that was probably less than 5 minutes and my site's back to what it was before I actually broke something, which is, it happens to us all at the best of times, whatever plans we got laid by. What you can do within the pro version of Akeeba, there's other little bits where you can exclude files from the backup. So for whatever reason that might be, on my build server for new sites, I have a core Akeeba running which I exclude all of the new site folders because I don't want to back up every one of them at the same time. I back them up individually. If you want to do that, you can. You've also got in the pro version, in the configuration section, you can actually now, you've got post-processing. So by default, nothing happens. It literally keeps the backup file on your server. I can choose from any of these options here to post-process. So once the backup's taken, it can send me an email, it can upload to S3, you've got Dropbox, Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, FTP, loads of options there. So it will take the backup and then push the backup to your setup. Now I use OneDrive for mine. All of my sites that I run, when the backup completes, it puts the copy of that backup on my OneDrive. And if I select the choice I want and hit the configure button, I now get the choice to say, well, in my OneDrive folder, where do I want to put the backup file? And if I click the authentication button, which I'm not going to complete now, what happens here for OneDrive is it asks me to sign in. And once I've signed in, it gives me two really, really long encryption keys, access token keys, which I can copy and paste into those two boxes. And then once I've saved and closed this one, that is literally done. You can also go down and set file quotas. So I always set remote file quotas. This one isn't turned on by default, I don't believe. So I will set how many backup copies are kept on the host, on the cloud all the time. So for smaller sites that don't change regularly, that might be 3. For larger e-commerce websites where they literally, it's critical to have a reasonable backup time frame, I will normally set that to 7, maybe longer. You've got options you can choose from, or custom, and you can say how many do you want to keep. 7, save and close, and it's gone. Or you can keep backups in age, so it'll only keep them up to 31 days, whatever's your preference in that one, you can do. And that's quite nice. The rest of it I never normally need to touch. It's just standard Akeeba settings, which are fine. You can set the log level. I have a habit usually of only doing errors and warnings. Otherwise, it will keep all information in debug. I would only do that one if I had an issue and the guys from Akeeba needed something to look at in the logs. It does add a little bit of space to the end result file size. And that's the back end of Joomla for Akeeba. I use that daily just to do the backups. That's very rare. I need to restore one, but it does happen. I've got a couple of people I can see viewing. If anybody wants to say hello to me in the morning now, please do. At least I know you're there and who's watching. Otherwise, I'm talking to invisible people, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. So that's the Akeeba side of admin. The other aspect of Akeeba is what it does. So if I log into my control panel for my server, can't even get back to your admin login for Joomla, and it's all broken. What you can do to restore that manually, because that is another very, very useful bit of information to know how to do. So here we go. There's my cPanel. So I'm going to go to my test site for this one. Give me a bit of time. It's a little bit of a rush. I had planned to have this prepared in advance, but because of the client phone call I got and I need to do something there and then, I had time. So if I go to the folder where my test site is living, I'll show you where the backup files are kept by default. So test. So by default, if this is your hosting of your Joomla site, which will have these folders within the administrator folder and components and com Akeeba, I've got a folder called backup. Now by default, this is not accessible from the front end. You cannot access this from browsing the files or anything. So it's not an insecure place to keep them. And what you can see is these JPA files here. Why have I got those 3? Don't want them ones in there. Let's get rid. If I sort this by last modified, I can see that the latest Joomla backup, the JPA file, it actually has the date and the timestamp in the file name. So it is, today is the 27th of the 10th 2021, which is today. The timestamp is 11:24 and 11 seconds, which matches that there. So that's the latest backup I've done. So what I can do now to restore this manually, I need to move this file, and I need to move it to the root folder of my site, which for this test site is literally test. For you, it will probably be just public HTML /. So I'm going to move that file now, and then if I go back up to the root of my website, there is the JPA file. Now I can't at this point do anything yet. I can't restore that from where it is. If you go to the Akeeba website, what you're looking for is Akeeba Kickstart, which you can get there. Kickstart is basically the PHP files to put in your file in your server hosting that let you do this one. If you download Kickstart, which is free, you can download Kickstart Core. I'm going to just show you now where that is, and I'm going to extract it. Go in there. The file I want is literally kickstart.php. I don't need anything else. So now on my hosting control panel again, I'm going to just go upload. I'm going to go to that Kickstart file. Go back to my home folder. Now personally, when I do it this way, I would nearly always delete everything. Select all. Select all. I'm going to just keep the backup file and the Kickstart PHP. So I'm going to delete everything from my test folder. So now all I've got in there, if I try and revisit my website, I can't because it's gone. So what I've got to do is literally put that kickstart.php here. Kickstart.php. And this is exactly where we were before in terms of it's the same screen and the same settings we had when we ran the installation, when we ran the recovery from the Joomla admin. So if I start this off again, it's going to extract. Sometimes if you've updated an extension and it causes a problem and you can't do something, it breaks something else. Sometimes the restore from admin doesn't work because those updated files are still retained. They're not overwritten all the time. If it's a different file to what was there before, sometimes that clear deletion of everything is needed just to clear out all the old stuff. And this is also to evidence that this will restore an entire site completely if the whole thing had gone, or if you've moved to a new server, for example. And again, because it's on the same site domain name as it was before, all the details are filled in. If it wasn't the same domain name, this would change. You'd have to re-enter all of these details to be correct for you. So I'm going to do next again. Database restore, a couple of seconds. Next step. Again, exactly the same screen as you had before. You need to put your password in. You can change it at this point, unless it's locked by firewall software, in which case it won't change. Next. I need to now, as it says, close this window and return to Kickstart. I've now got to go back to my original tab, clean up, visit my site front end, and there's my live site back, exactly how it was. In the file manager again, all my folders and files are back. It deletes the Kickstart PHP, it deletes the backup file, so you're not running a risk potentially of somebody rerunning the installation again, or the restoration, or somehow downloading your backup file if they were to know the file path. Hello Marin, good to see you this morning. So that realistically is where it is. If you were using the cloud solutions, if I was to manage backups, and they were put up to the cloud, it would look a little bit different. So if you looked at this on the cloud, you would see the backup file as a little cloud icon. So when you click it, it will prompt you you can download from the cloud to your server, then you can restore it. So you can't restore directly from a cloud file, you've got to download it first, then you can tick the box and do restore. You can also download the cloud file to your desktop or your computer if you need to. So if you want to move it around, you can. Because I've deleted everything there, I am forsaken. I'm going to take another backup just for my own peace of mind, so I've got it there. And in a nutshell, that's Akeeba Backup. I strongly recommend you use, if not Akeeba, another backup solution within Joomla, and you use it regularly. You can, in your control panel as well, if you've got Akeeba Pro, you can use a cron job. Where have they gone? There we go. So on a lot of my live sites, I've got a cron job that runs Akeeba Backup automatically every evening, and there is a command line for this, which may not be the same for you. It does depend upon your on your PHP folder path. I'm going to paste that in the comments below. So So that may be different for you. It may not be the same. So that is what I use. I basically can paste that into the cron job command. For me, I need to make sure that this username here is correct for me. If you haven't got that, if you've literally just got one site and one hosting plan, that should just be that home/public HTML or whatever your root is. For me, I've got to put that in because I've got multiple accounts on my server, and I'm given that username in my details, and I can just change that in there. I'm not going to set this because I don't want it to run, but I can in cron job certainly on cPanel, I can say once per day. I can leave it by default. It'll run at midnight every day, every month, every year. Or I can say, right, well, actually, I'm going to have a random time. If you've got multiple sites running, random time of the evening, whatever fits for you. And as soon as I've added that cron job, oh, it does run the backup job there. That runs automatically on there by default at that time. And that, again, will create a backup file in your managed backups. And rather than say, it will tell you on the side of it whether it was a remote command line, which is that cron job, or whether it was a manual one, which is this one. So there we are. That is Akeeba in a nutshell, all the way through from using it, restoration from admin, restoration in a worst case scenario where you've lost full access to all of it. As long as you can get to your hosting file control panel, you can use that to upload the file. If you're moving a website around, you can download that JPA file, go to your new site, FTP it up, or use your control panel to upload that file to your root directory of your hosting public HTML, upload the kickstart.php, and then you'd literally just visit your web domain /kickstart.php, and it will walk you through the restoration process with the database details you've got for that hosting plan. So there we go. I hope you found that useful. As I said, I use that daily to do backups, very occasionally to restore things, and regularly to take sites live from dev to live sites. If you watch that and any questions pop up that I didn't answer for you, or you'd like a bit more information on something within, drop me a comment, drop me a PM, add me to your friends list, follow me on YouTube where the videos all get added at a later date as well. Other than that, I shall leave you all in peace and catch you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.